I've dug back into my history. Um, I used to be a specialist in the French colonial allegorical group type for the 1892 issue that was used by all the French colonies until about World War One, 1915. And the nice thing about collecting this issue is when I started in 1976, it wasn't a well-studied issue by the French, so there wasn't all that much known. And you never knew what you were going to come up with. And a couple of years ago, I put together a presentation on one centime French and French colonial rates. I just took one cover out of it that has a very interesting and unusual story, and I thought I'd tell you that story. And it's about a cover from Martinique and a one centime postal rate. And the question is it genuine? And so here's the cover. What you see is the French colonial group type stamp. That's navigation and commerce. The two allegorical figures sitting at the bow of a boat. You can see where the numeral plugs will put in 1 centime to 5 francs. And you see in a separate run through the press where the colony's name was printed. It is a very unusual envelope in that it's franked at 1 centime. It seems real. It's addressed to Saint-Pierre in Martinique, the capital. And the Crochet family was a prominent family in Martinique, so it looked real, it seemed real, but no one had ever seen a 1 centime rate on an envelope that was properly postally used from Saint-Pierre. And the price wasn't too bad. I think it was $20 or $25. And I felt I could lose that amount if this didn't all turn out right.
You said this was you find all sorts of strange things for these stamps. Did the one who sold it to you have any idea that this was unusual?
No, he was a dealer. This was at the big time New York show. They used to have one in October and one in March. Maybe over 100 dealers, and I don't remember which one it was, but he was a regular, but he had a worldwide stock of postal history, so he'd give you a small handful of France and colonies. And it was in his stock that I saw it. I looked at it and said, wow, I've never seen a 1 centime rate on an envelope for any of the colonies. I didn't know of such a rate. I'd seen a lot of 2 centime printed matter rates. That was the local printed matter rate within a colony on an unsealed envelope, usually holiday greetings or business cards, stuff like that. I also had a couple of 1 centime wrapper bands. Okay, there was some, particularly the Indochina French offices in China. They had this 1 centime rate around, printed material. But when I saw this one on an envelope, on one hand, I was concerned about this being some sort of philatelic creation, or maybe a total fraud. Who knows? But I was also intrigued by the possibility of having a 1 centime rate on an envelope. And so I bought it. And then I started asking around both in the US, the France and Colonies Philatelic Society, and French groups that I was a member of, and French correspondence. And no one I knew could provide any information on a 1 centime rate on an envelope. As to what it might be. And I say here, after many months, actually, it might have been a couple of years. I mean, I was going to the Collectors Club all the time on 35th Street, so I was near the New York Public Library. I never stopped. But one day I got into the city early. I said, "Hey, let's go to the New York Public Library and see if I can find out anything about my 1 centime cover." And so I went to the card catalog and I started digging through it. And one of the things I found in the card catalog it was about a 1910 annual volume for the colony of Martinique. Okay, it was the rule of the individual French colonies every year, or at the end of every year, they do a full summary of activities in the colony, everything going on in the colony. The post office department, it put in its chapter. The local gendarmerie would do a chapter. Various government offices would do a chapter. And I found it was about a 1910 annual volume of the colony of Martinique. And there was a special rate listed in the postal chapter, a 1 centime rate in Martinique for the mailing of tickets within a village or town. And normally these were lottery tickets. Okay, so you might buy a lottery ticket for a friend and you wanted to get it to your friend. So you'd put it in an envelope at 1 centime and you could mail it within your town. First time really anybody has ever noted that rate. But I did something unusual at that point. And for the first time ever, and I don't think anybody else ever did this, looked inside the envelope. I opened it up and looked inside, and what was there? Not a lottery ticket, but a ferry ticket for the ferry that traveled daily between Fort-de-France, the commercial center, major center in Martinique, and Saint-Pierre, the capital of Martinique up north. And what this is a three franc ticket. You can see first class 3 francs from Fort-de-France to Saint-Pierre, and it's filled in. Uh, and so suddenly this started to make sense. Okay, this has a ticket in it. Okay, just as it should, and it was mailed locally in Saint-Pierre. It's not a lottery ticket. It's a ferry ticket. Well, just to give you a little map of Martinique, here's Saint-Pierre up here where the action took place. That's the capital. And here's Fort-de-France. This is the ferry run, and that's the major port and the major city in Martinique. So the question comes up, why does this ticket still exist? It's an interesting thing. A specialist in Martinique had seen this cover before me at the same dealer. I showed it to him after I bought it. He said, "Oh yeah, I looked at that already." But he too never looked inside. Okay, he just saw the 1 centime rate on an envelope. He didn't know anything about it, and 20 bucks was too much for him to lose. So he said no. So I was the one who actually bought it. The town of Saint-Pierre was destroyed by the eruption of Mont Pelée on May 7th, 1902, and the ferry to Fort-de-France no longer existed. So question is, was this ticket used or not used? Was somebody mailing an unused ticket? However, if you looked at that ticket, and I think I can show it to you now. The ticket is torn. You see where the arrow is? It's torn about halfway through. And when I saw that, I was reminded in 1970 we went to France for the first time. And if you went to little small museums or small events, they'd sell you a ticket for so many francs, and the ticket was just a little strip of paper. And then when you'd go into whatever the presentation was, they tear it halfway through as a way of canceling it. And you can see this ticket is torn. So possibly this was a used ticket being sent to somebody as a receipt or something, or maybe for a refund. I don't know, but it seems a very logical interpretation. This is what happened to Saint-Pierre in May 1902. Literally the whole town, which was about 30,000 people, ceased to exist because of the volcano in the background. And when it blew, it not only destroyed the town, it destroyed all the ships in the harbor. Uh, and they estimate that about 30,000 people were killed. One person survived. He was a prisoner in jail in actually a dungeon, an underground dungeon. And when the authorities finally got to Saint-Pierre, They found him still alive in the dungeon, and his sentence was commuted, and he was freed for the rest of his life, given his good fortune.
Hmm.
So the question comes up, can we determine the date of use? And unfortunately, it's a black on black poor cancellation. It's unreadable. I use the old retro reveal program. We now have a postmark reveal program. It's free image enhancing software, and it doesn't work on this because it's black on black. I think if I ever had gotten around to some surface reflectance techniques, I might have had a shot of identifying the date stamp. I'm pretty sure it's Saint-Pierre, but I possibly could get more information. But in reality, we'll never know the date of posting. However, I'm quite sure that this letter is genuine and traveled within the town of Saint-Pierre and was not caught up in the eruption of Mount Pelée.
Hmm.
And in 2019, I sold my whole group type collection, and I sold this cover to a specialist in the group type who's sort of taking over group type postal history, and he was very happy to get this uh, uh, essentially unique cover. So this was just some of the fun you could have with the group type. And very little money, but you could have a lot of fun digging in postal history, and learn interesting new things. So that's my
Hmm.
story on the One Centime cover from Martinique.
Was the 1 centime for all the colonies always
Oh
black?
yeah, every colony had a One Centime.
And it was
But
black.
the only One Centime rates. And you see listed in One Centime rates at election time there was electoral printed matter, and that used to go via the One Centime rate. Okay, that was another One Centime rate. I've never seen electoral printed matter for the colonies. I've seen it for France proper. It's quite rare, and normally you see it franked with the One Centime black typesage issue. Allegorical issue that was used in France, the two allegorical figures beside the globe. Uh, so there are One Centime rates within the French community, but as I said, this is the only one I've seen on an envelope.
Hmm.
This fellow I sold it to has another, but it's very obviously philatelic because it's on a telegram envelope, and One Centime makes no sense whatsoever. So I think this is a unique cover, uh, and uh, quite a find for a small sum of money.
Did they print the value at the same time they printed the first run through?
There were master dies. The master die had no number in the numeral plug area, and when
Yeah.
they created the values, they put in the numbers from 1 franc to 5 franc, 1 centime to 5 francs, and they would create these 6 panes of 25 in 2 rows across in the panes. That was the sheet composition. So for
Uh-huh.
master die, you would create the plates, uh, and when you needed a new value, you'd simply change the plugs. It was the French. Nobody gives French kudos for efficiency. We always give it to the Germans, but the French were very efficient. This whole concept, instead of issuing different stamps for every colony as the British did, with all sorts of varieties, watermarks, perforations, plate flaws, et cetera, they used the same issue for 29 different colonial units. Uh, and they could print them ahead of time and just leave out the colony name. And then when Senegal needed some more stamps, they could print up what Senegal needed, no problem. And it was a marvelous solution that ran from 1892 to, as I said, 1915 when they closed down the issue. Very, very efficient.
Because the value was printed separately.
No, the value was put in the master die to create the sheets.
Oh, okay. Because there are just a few stamps from France where the value was printed separately from the rest of the design.
No,
And in that case, you can have a lot of fun looking for the displacement of the numerals.
Yeah. No, the plugs were put in, and they all came from the master dies.